Hello, School Zone folks. Thanks for joining us again today. Today we've got a really important guest. We have Diana Dawson from Oklahoma City Public Schools, and I believe I've got the title right, but Diana, correct me if I get it wrong. The Title III and ELL Instructional Facilitator.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. So thank you so much for joining us today, Diana. So the goal of this conversation is we've been, and let me give the date because the world, I'm not sure if you know this, Diana, but the world's been changing rather quickly recently. So I cleaned out my inbox this morning.
What?
Yeah, I just couldn't sleep, got up and figured I'd do that. And there were emails from 3 weeks ago and it was like, oh, wow, has the world changed? It's just unbelievable how fast our whole world has changed. So today is April 6th, Monday, April 6th. This is the first day of official distance learning. Pray for teachers if you're listening, because we know that this is hard. This stuff it's going to be a moving target as schools sort of work out the kinks. I know that we're in the Bushy household working out the kinks as we speak. So, we're all kind of leaning in and learning something new by necessity. We know there's been a lot of different topics that have come up for schools about, well, how the heck do I do this via distance learning? Special education was one, and we covered that with Todd Lofton from the State Department of Ed. And I put out some feelers to find out who is focused on ELL. Diana, your name came up. I think Professor Cullen from OU School of Education recommended you. And I've heard from other people like, oh, yeah, she's the one to talk to. So we've got the expert folks here. So why don't I start with a general question, Diana? Tell us, so you're at Oklahoma City, sort of what have you been doing the last few weeks to prepare for this launch today?
So we've been doing a few things. One of the specific things that we have been doing in my department, we've been making newcomer packets for our newcomer students. OKCPS has a really high rate of newcomers. So the elementary facilitators have been making newcomer packets, as well as putting together online resources for our teachers. And our secondary team has also been making newcomer packets in addition to sheltered packets. And those shelter packets are for students who are maybe like, they're past that year 1, year 2 mark, but they still need a lot of modifications, or say they're in that year 2 mark and they need those mods, then there are packets for them where they're able to get that sheltered instruction.
Okay. I mean, I gotta imagine as a parent, this has got to be an intimidating time. And it's intimidating for me, right? And I'm a former teacher and my wife's a teacher. So it's intimidating for us. I've got to imagine for folks that don't have that education background, it's intimidating. And then when you've got to deal with a language barrier, that's an even bigger issue to tackle. What's your advice to teachers, both at Oklahoma City and to statewide? How can they, I mean, I'm assuming not just the ELL students, but maybe you have a student, whether they're classified ELL or not, but the parents are English is not their first language. How do you bridge that communication gap?
Well, one of the things that we've been telling our teachers is basically, and if you just want to stay just have that open line of communication for them. We've been throwing out a couple of apps that they could use. There's an app called Talking Points that was suggested by one of the members of our secondary team. And with Talking Points, it's kind of like Remind, where you can send text messages to families or to students. But Talking Points allows you to send it in the family's native language.
Okay.
So you type it in English and it'll send it to that family in Spanish if that's the native language you're wanting. And then It also has options for a couple of other languages as well. So that's one thing that we're telling our teachers. We have Talking Points. Google Translate is another one that's also effective. It doesn't, there's some problems with Google Translate, especially the more complicated the languages, the longer the sentences are, it's going to get a little skewed. But with Google Translate, one of the reasons we like that app is because you're able to use, if you have a written document that's, say, in English, that you picked up a packet from your school district and it's all in English, you can use the Google Translate app and it'll translate the document in Spanish. And so just the little modes that it has, where it can translate a text in a paper, or it can translate something if you speak through voice, or it'll translate through a recording.
What about with Zoom or something like, so we're using Zoom right now. It seems to be the popular tool out there, but are any of these sort of, I don't know, WebEx or, Google has the Hangouts. Do they have the ability to translate like using closed captions?
I'm not sure. I actually have not played with that, but that's actually, and now I kind of want to write that down because I haven't played with Zoom and Google Hangouts like that. I know that there are some extensions. For example, the Google Translate extension will translate an entire article or screen for you. Yep. Or there's another extension that's called Too Long That Didn't Read, where if the article is just too long for a newcomer or ELL student, you can use Too Long Didn't Read, and it'll shorten that article by either 25%, 50%, 75%, but it'll still keep the most pertinent information of what you want to know and get out of that article.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, gosh, I saw this at a conference a few years ago. I believe Microsoft, the suite, they have a Microsoft Translate. The person was talking to me in German when I walked up, and I kind of looked at him weird, and then he pointed at the screen and it was translating the words. So I know that there are those types of tools, so it's good to know. Do you have, so we work with a lot of rural schools, which they wouldn't have this. Do you have folks that are available to help with translation?
Yes, if we run into... our communications department helps with translation. Now, the packets that we're doing right now for our district, we're doing packets from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And so we're not, even as a huge district that we are, we're not that staffed to where our translation department is able to translate every single document. So they've pulled in people from our department, pulled in a couple of other people to kind of help with the translation. So what we're doing with our packets is we've translated the instructions for the parents so that they understand what it is, the work that the students need to do. Yeah.
And you have, within Oklahoma City, it's a pretty huge percentage of Latino students, but I know that. What percentage of that is ELL?
In our district, it's about 30% that are EL students.
All students. Wow. That's a lot. And almost 40,000 kids. So roughly speaking, let me do the math here. 12,000 kids. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And it actually, there's some people that are actually kind of surprised by that percentage because some people would think it's a lot higher. And one thing to remember is it really kind of depends because Oklahoma City Public Schools is so big. It depends on the area where you're teaching at. If you're on the south side of our district, that percentage is obviously going to be higher. But if you teach on the north side or the northeast side, that percentage drops.
Yep.
And the other thing is, not every Hispanic student is an ELL student.
Yep.
So we're about 30% ELL students in our district.
Okay. Now, I assume this vast majority of that is Spanish-speaking EL, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. You do have other languages. What's the second largest language? What is it?
Vietnamese.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. And those are not relatable languages.
Not relatable at all.
Wow.
And we're starting to see an influx actually right now in French.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what's driving that.
I think they're countries from the North Africa region.
Okay.
That are coming. So we're seeing that influx as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, at least you get something to keep you busy. I'm sure it's a concern of yours.
Yeah, we stay plenty busy.
Yeah. What other concerns do you have? So we're going to be doing distance learning until May 8th. Yes. We know that EL is a challenge, just every day, right? Like for educators. But specific to distance learning, what are the specific concerns and worries you have, and what are the strategies that you're developing to go after that?
One of my worries is actually mainly with our newcomer students, those families. One thing that we're telling teachers is that yes, we have to keep that learning going, but if you think about those families, those parents are probably still working, and they're working either maybe the same type of hours or maybe even longer hours for what's going on right now. So what we're telling teachers is really kind of be prepared that it may be the older sibling that's helping our elementary students with their work. It's really just depending. And what we ask is just check in with the families. We're thankful that our district provides Language Link, where they're able to request an interpreter by phone. But we've also been hearing that there's also long wait time for that because of what's going on, which is why we're kind of, throwing out talking points and things like that. But to kind of, the biggest thing is just check in with the families, check in that they know, what resources that they need to do. They know where the feeding sites are, what it is, if they have any questions over the packets that were being sent home by the teacher, if there's a language and cultural services department in your district, if there's newcomer packets for that. If they don't have anything, our district has made all that information available publicly. So you are more than welcome to go to our website and download newcomer packets that we have. We have one for elementary, we have one for secondary. Their secondary has also created those children instruction packets. I've also created a dual language packet, since we're also doing a dual language program in our district. There's a dual language packet.
Okay. And explain the difference with the dual language versus. So what do you mean by that?
So with ELL, the goal is for the students to learn English, academic English. Social English, they're going to get watching TV, playing in the playground, but learning that academic English. Okay. With dual language is where the students are learning academic English and academic Spanish. And the goal with dual language is having students be biliterate.
That's great.
Yeah.
In that approach, just as a quick aside, are those typically, like if it's English and Spanish, is it Spanish speakers learning English or the opposite or both?
The program we have right now, since it depends on what the population you have in the school. So right now, the specific school where we're doing this program at has a really high population of Hispanic students. So with that, it's just ELL students learning in Spanish and in English.
I think that's exciting because that allows them to lean on their strengths, right? Like the hard part about learning English, if you're a native Spanish speaker, would be, I always talk about, like, imagine that one thing that you're no good at, right? That you really struggle with, and then you've got to do it all the time, right? For me, it would be like dancing, right? Like, ain't gonna happen, right? And so to be able to say to students, well, sure, you can learn in Spanish, but we're also going to teach you English at the same time would seem to me to be, I don't know, the way my brain works, that seems a lot more attractive to me. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of just connections between bridging, and a lot of connections between this is the English word, this is the Spanish word, and it's focused a lot on cooperative learning. But we have all those resources available in our website, as well as a list of online resources that teachers can direct their families to.
Awesome. We will get that link from you, Diana, and we'll include a link to the Talking Points app and Google Translate, just so that folks have one place they can look in our show notes and they can see all of those links. So
my second advice is really just reading at home. Like if I would make that my top priority. If that's all the parents can do, it doesn't matter if it's reading in Spanish or reading in any other of that home language, as long as they're reading.
No, I think that's critical, right? Right before we got started here, my girls came in because they're reading with their grandparents over FaceTime, and yeah, it's been a fun kind of thing for the grandparents and for the kids, and we know that the more reading that kids do, regardless of what it is, that helps with fluency as well.
Yes. And I mean, if they're limited on books, getepic.com, those books are available. They have them in all different kinds of languages. Teachers, as long as they have in whatever their district is, .org, .edu, they have access to Get Epic for free. And they're able to, right now, I think Get Epic is letting teachers assign books to students in this time. BrainPop as well is giving, parents and teachers those resources for free. And what's another thing with BrainPop.com, they're also giving access to BrainPop Junior for elementary teachers. And they're also giving access to BrainPop ELL. And BrainPop ELL is really good, especially for newcomers, because they're really tied into those WIDA access learning standards.
That's cool. That's the thing. It's almost been overwhelming is how many different tools are available right now for free. So trying to sort through that, but we'll make sure to list those out. I know my daughter's teacher has actually assigned her BrainPop Junior and the Get Epic, so which is much appreciated. Trying to keep them busy.
Yes.
Cool. How about so Oklahoma City has the benefit of having you keep on referring to different positions. We work with a lot of schools where they just don't have that. Any advice, any additional thoughts in that area? Because it's the same person kind of wearing 12, 15 hats right now, or always has been.
I think my advice is just try and find a contact person, whether it's within that district or a nearby district, or if it's me, they're more than free to email me. If they need resources, I can point them towards the right direction. There's a Facebook group called Advocating for ELLs, and it's basically a Facebook group where it's members from all over the country. I think there's even some teachers that are actually in another country, and it's all about English learning, and everybody's sharing their resources there. They share ideas. So that's another place where I would look to. But I think that's the biggest thing is just because you are in a small rural district, my biggest thing is I don't want you to feel that you are alone. I mean, we're in different districts, but you know what? If you have a question and it's something that we can help, if it's a resource that we can send, please don't feel that you are alone in this.
Yeah, I think that's the overarching thing. You've been echoing what I've heard in so many conversations, which is right now is obviously an uncomfortable time for everyone, right? I mean, so much of our world has changed. In the education world, we can't be around our kids. We can't, we just can't congregate. We can't do anything. And so necessarily some of our expectations change. Our obviously teachers' comfort level with this environment is going to be extremely low. I think people, I don't know. I'm an eternal optimist. You can't beat it out of me. But I think if, what I'm advising folks is one, operate with a sense of generosity of spirit. Like take it, sort of take it easy on yourself and take it easy on others, because we know that everyone's struggling a little bit. But at the same time, lean in, right? Like that discomfort requires us to lean in and to figure out ways. And then, the hopeful part of me is that, I don't want to put a rosy picture on this. This is bad, right? We know that there are kids trapped in learning environments that are not positive. We know that there are lots of folks whose parents can't help or, are too busy to. So that there's lots of really bad things. Plus, like just not being in school is not cool. The flip side is I think that this is an opportunity to learn about new content, about new methods, and to build relationships in different manners. And when this is all over, those that lean in and that really, sort of lean into that discomfort and struggle a little bit, I think will be better for it. That's my hopeful message. So
I agree.
Cool. Well, so we've got all these different links here. We're going to make sure we get it out there. To know that Oklahoma City has this resource available is really great. And I won't publicize your contact info. If folks want to reach out, I can put them in touch. And my contact info is right on our website, so opsrc.net. What am I forgetting? What are other things that we should be talking about?
One of the, if we're talking about, maybe, I don't think we've talked about English, just English language app, English resources that we could send out to this.
Okay.
I mean, if they have access to the internet, there's a lot of YouTube channels that are specifically for building English. One I recommend is called English Sing Sing. It's all about developing those conversations, but they do it in a song format. And it's really catchy for younger ELL populations. Apps, Duolingo, and there's also Memrise. That's really good. Both of those are free up to a certain point, but they're both pretty good for learning English. And there are also in our online resources document as well.
Okay, fantastic. That's good to hear. English Sing Sing. I just want to, is that sing-sing?
Just there are two words to put together. Sing Sing. English Sing Sing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm the son of a choir director. My dad was almost 40 years as a choir director in Michigan. And I think there's so much to be learned by incorporating music. I see that with my oldest. She's extremely auditory, and music really, really does help. So that I can imagine if you're trying to learn a language, that would be really helpful.
And a lot of our ELL students are very, like, any visuals, any songs, they just soak it up.
Cool.
That's actually kind of how I learned English. So here we go.
We should have started off with your story. So how did you learn English? Tell us that story.
Just, songs like that. I would think I was 9 years old when I moved to the United States.
Cool. Did you move to Oklahoma, or where did you move?
Yeah, oldest of 5 kids. So I think it was challenging at first. You went through that culture shock, but yeah, just listening to songs that my mom would put on and on TV. I had an ELL teacher. My ELL teacher gave me a lot of visuals, and I watched a lot of Star Wars on TNT. So pretty much that's how I feel I attribute my English learning, is just hearing and listening to that authentic English speakers, and how they make those words. And once I got to middle school, it was reading. And reading and practicing reading. Through reading, I was able to see how sentences were, how they were made, how they were grammatically correct, how people expressed themselves. So it was really through reading and looking at books and reading books that I was able to make those connections, like, oh, that's how you say it.
That's cool. I feel bad for not starting off with that. I think that would have been that helped inform the conversation. And clearly the force is strong within you if you learned your English with Star Wars.
It's still very strong, very, very strong.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good. And with the Disney app, I don't know if you've gotten on that yet. All this stuff is available. I'm trying to convince my daughters that The Mandalorian isn't for boys, so that they'll watch it with me. So.
Oh, tell them I love it. And
I can't. I don't know. Like usually, I'm pretty good. I can convince them to try something, but they decided that one is not cool. So.
Oh, just have you showed them The Child?
I don't know. We watched the first episode and they're like, no, and I was like, what are you talking about? So.
Okay. They may like it after seeing The Child. I don't want to give away anything, but they may like it.
Okay, is that the same show? You just keep on going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandalorian. It's at the very end of that first episode where you.
Oh no! Yeah. I totally didn't work. I don't know what it is. I'm trying. So I'm gonna duct tape them to the couch and make them watch another episode. So.
You need to.
All right. I think we've explored this. I really appreciate you taking time. I know it's a busy time of year. I I just know, today is a crazy day as well. So the fact that you're able to take time to share with us is really appreciated.
Oh, no problem. And I actually have one more thing, if that's okay, that I just
Absolutely.
one of the other things that I also want to talk to ELL teachers about is retention.
Okay.
Our ELL students are retained at a much higher rate compared to other students. We actually have a facilitator in our secondary team, Dr. Jamie Lake Buckmaster. She recently just got her PhD, and her dissertation was exactly on this data. And just reminding teachers, especially during this time with the long distance learning, retention is not going to be, a very good thing for our kiddos right now,
Yeah.
especially for our ELL students.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't turn off notifications in my computer. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I would hope that in this time that we're going to figure out how we do this catch up, right? Like, we've used the term summer slide in education quite a bit. And
Yeah.
I think we're just not as effective teaching in the way that we are right now, than in the traditional ways. So I think in the fall, no matter where you are, right, like you're going to be behind, and schools are going to have to find a way to fill that gap. So yeah, I would hope that schools do have that flexibility around retention and don't just retain kids. So
yeah, especially for language.
yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And again, thanks for taking time out of your day today.
No problem.
And have a good one.